best of the
Commander.
best.
We got no reverence. What's the plan? GSL. Kaboom, baby! Go on.
꿈의 도시 라스베가스에서 전 세계인의 환호를 받으며 치러졌던 2012 GSTL 시즌1 결승전. 팀 리그 역사상 최초의 올킬 탄생, 정열의 도시 부산 해운대를 뜨겁게 불태웠던 2012 핫식스 GSTL 시즌2 결승전. 모든 예상을 빗나간 이변과 반전의 2012년. 그 대미를 장식할 스타크래프트2 최고의 팀은 과연 어디일 것인가? 2012 핫식스 GSTL 시즌3. 종족별 GSL 우승자를 보유한 초대 우승팀 LGIM, GSTL 유일의 2회 우승팀 슬레이어스, 매 시즌 최소 4강 영원한 우승 후보 MVP, 라스베가스 기적의 주인공 프라임, 지난 시즌 파란의 주인공 공포의 저그군단 TSL, 유일한 해외팀 우승팀 킬러 프나틱 레이드콜, 제넥스를 흡수 더욱 강력해진 무적함대 스타테일 헌팅, 최강의 소수 정예군단 NS 호서, 부산 해운대를 압도한 기적의 주인공 에펙스 오픈. 이제 참가팀 모두가 우승 후보다. 우승 상금 3천만 원을 거머쥐며 스타크래프트2의 정상에 오를 팀은 과연 어디일 것인가? 2012 시즌 통합 성적을 기준으로 하위 3팀이 본선 진출권을 놓고 겨룰 1라운드. 1라운드를 통과한 2팀과 시드를 받은 6팀이 4강 티켓을 놓고 싸울 2라운드. 조별 1, 2위 팀이 결승을 향해 격돌할 4강 플레이오프. 그리고 2012년 세 번째 우승팀이 탄생할 대망의 결승전까지. 감동의 드라마, 최고의 명경기와 새로운 별들이 다시 쏟아진다. 2012 핫식스 GSTL 시즌3.
Welcome to GSTL Season 3. I am Wolf, with me is Caldor, and we are ready to get things started here.
Indeed we are. Today we have our first team match and it's going to be great. I'm so happy that we are back with the Team League, Wolf.
Yeah, me too, man. Team League is kind of my favorite part of the GSL, and I'm really excited to see how these teams clash together here. It's going to be a great match. We have LGIM, a team who's never been able to quite take that final, but have some of the best players in the world.
Exactly. We have all of them, of course, already on the bench. We talked to them earlier. We have Seed, we have MVP, Nest, TMC is here as well. A lot of really top players, and they are up against NS Hosa today.
Yeah, they are indeed. NS Hosa, a team lacking a few players today, kind of scattered around all over the place. So they're not going to be quite as strong, I feel, this season as they were last season.
Definitely a big problem for them that Sage, Sting, and of course also Freaky left the team right now. Only 5 players in the lineup, and that's definitely going to be a real big problem for NS Hosa. They look once again like they're the weakest team in the league, but that was something that was also true for the last season, and they actually were able to scare quite a few other teams.
Yeah, very true. You know, when you only have 5 players on your team, that means your opponent can prepare for every single one of your players, because if you come down to the line and kill all of them, you're going to know every single player you're going to face. There's no mystery. You don't know the order, but you know every single player you're going to face.
Yeah. And this season is once again like really scary. You have so many great teams. The last season already, we looked at the lineup of LGIM and we're like, okay, well, they are definitely a candidate for the finals. And then quite early in the competition, they were actually eliminated. And now we have LGIM. We have StarTale, of course, with the Xenix players now also in the roster, therefore a lot of Zerg players, and it's going to be actually a really great season. I mean, this season is going to be epic.
Yeah, it is. Let's take a look at our maps for this season as well. Here's a new map, Abyssal City. You guys have seen this map a little bit already, I'm sure, online. Checked it out. It's a pretty cool map. It's a 2-player map. Relatively large size, and you can see kind of how it plays out when we get into the actual games. I haven't had any time to really look at it, as I've been playing Heart of the Swarm too much.
The thing is, I actually could see Mutalisk on this map again. It's a map that's really good for Mutalisk play. On the other hand, Protoss players that I've talked to so far in the matchup against Terran don't really like it because drop play is so strong on this map.
Yeah.
That's something that we might see here, but players need to figure it out, and that's also true for a second addition to the map role.
Now, Grand Lagoon, if I'm not mistaken, is not in Code S at all. I haven't seen it play played. I watched all the Codes matches, so yeah, it's not in there. So this map is completely GSTL exclusive right now, so we'll see how this one plays out. No matches have been played on it televised thus far. Another big map, 2-player map. I looked at the picture, just the same picture you guys were looking at now earlier, so I don't really know exactly how it plays out yet, but that's something I'm looking forward to find out.
Yeah, exactly. We had, of course, also in the last season a few new maps, most of them pretty huge. Whirlwind, of course, is one example, but now we have 2 new additions, and it's going to be pretty interesting. Abyssal City, as already mentioned earlier, is a map where we will probably see a lot of job play, a lot of Mutalists maybe, a lot of airplay just in general. Because of how the map works. And yeah, the new maps are also something that is quite funny in most of the matchups, especially when you're up against a Zerg player. Finding out about the Overlord movements and where Zerg tries to hide them, and then trying to intercept them is something that is always so funny when we have a new addition to the pool.
That's very true. You know, where the Overlords can hide to spot your Forge, for example, as a Protoss player is something you're going to want to think about. As well as where do you take your third base? It seems to be a problem on some new maps when you haven't had that experience is exactly where you're supposed to take that third base.
Exactly, especially on the Grand Lagoon map, we have, of course, the natural that is really easy to take, but at the same time you have to worry about the third. You can expand the bottom right if you start top right. Well, to the right side of the map, there's one position that you can take. It looks a little bit like the situation that you have on Tal'Daram Altar, actually, with how the 2 bases work, because you have the high ground, but that's something that we'll find out as soon as players start to play here and show us their strategies. Of course, now we have a quicker look at the teams that play today.
Yep, and that's Hosa versus LGIM. Race distribution for LGIM, quite strong, 4, 5, and 4 there. 6 Codes players, and NS Hosa lacking Codes players, not even a single one.
Exactly, they don't have a single player in Codes right now, and in Code A there is only 1. We have 3 Terrans, 2 Protoss, and 2 Zergs, and the captains today are Sculp and Nesty. Sculp, of course, for NS Hosa, Nesty on the other hand for LGIM. And their lineup is just so scary. The current GSL champion is in the LGIM lineup. Seed is sitting on the bench. Just the amount of players that we have here is it's insane. It's really crazy.
I mean, we may have Jokchi, who's the only Code A player on their team, who's been a champion himself as well. But I mean, looking at, we've got Losira, who's a finalist, against Nesty, who's been a multi-time champion, MVP, a multi-time champion, Seed, player who's done extremely well, not only in the individual league, but also in the Team Arena Challenge at IPL. That was somewhere he really shined through.
Exactly.
And, I mean, that's kind of, I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm trying to say IGN and IM. That's kind of IM's only real Team League final performance. And in the GSTL, they haven't looked as strong.
Yeah, and of course, one thing that we have to mention about Seed as well is that he did perform quite well in the WCS, even though he was not too happy with his performance because of all the traveling. You already mentioned the IPL finals. He had to travel, came back, and actually was able to defeat Gumio when he came straight from the airport into the studio to play. Didn't even go home to drop his luggage. Went straight to the studio, played Gumio, and was able to win. That was quite impressive.
Yeah, that was extremely insane. Now, nobody knows who our starting players are just yet, but we're going to find that out in a little bit. First, let's welcome NS Hosa coming out here, showing their lineup. As mentioned before, a little bit thinned out. There's Tassadar. 5 players here. In fact, no, 6.
Yeah, we must have dropped 1 earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, they lost quite a few players, and it's actually a little bit sad to me that Freaky is not in the team anymore. He was one of the Wildcats last season, one of the players that you could never anticipate what he would do. He really made sure that his nickname was deserved.
Yeah, a great player. Crazy infestor usage. His game against Bomber really comes to mind. Now you can see NS Hosa coach not looking too confident right now, but team very thinned out, a little bit smaller today, and it's going to be tough to play against the lineup of IM with this small group of players.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things, well, actually we have the LGIM team now coming into the studio, I guess.
I think before that we might look at the race distribution or breakdown. I'm not 100% sure which we'll see first.
Okay, let's have a closer look at the roster, you're right.
And, yeah, we'll take a look at that. Tassar looking pretty cheerful down there on the bench. Maybe he's got a special strategy planned for today.
Let's hope so. He will need it.
Yeah.
I feel like they have really big task in front of them, and they need a little bit of cheeky play today. Here's the lineup: NS, Hosa.
Yep, just breaking it down by race here and giving a little bit of extra information. Sculp, Jokchi, and Salvation are the Terran players for the team.
3 of them in the lineup, as we saw already earlier in the team details. Here we have our Protoss players, Tassadar and Brave. Yep.
And the Mystery Zerg, Seal, and Freaky actually remains in the lineup, so we may have had some misinformation, which actually is a very nice surprise, in fact, this is true.
I would actually, when I read earlier that Freaky left the team, I was a little bit worried, especially also Freaky and Seal they just seem like brothers. Everything they do together. They always talk about the strategies, and I would have been really sad if that team would have been just ripped apart, but apparently Freaky is still in the roster here.
Yeah, that's really good to hear, actually, that he's sticking with it.
They need him.
Yeah, they really do. And that's also that team with a lot of shifting around of rosters. We had, for example, San claimed that he was looking for another team. He left, he came back. There was, just a lot of shifting for so many different players. They've lost a lot of process in the past. Like Von, for example. What happened to him, nobody knows. But very good team overall. And even though, like you said, most people would consider them to be the weakest team, they did so well last season with these special Zerg players, with some extra talent from Jockey, for example. Even Sculpt holding strong here. He's the captain of this season. Looking forward to seeing what they're going to show.
And here, of course, we have their opponent, LGIM. They want that title, and they certainly have the players to pull it off. Here we have Seed, of course, MC in the white jersey.
Yep. MC, of course, still partnered with their team. And that just makes the lineup even stronger than it was before. No Code A players, only Code S players. And Code B, of course. But man, oh man, is this team going to be so hard to beat.
It's definitely going to be a challenge for every single team that they have to face. Don't forget, guys, the winner of today's match is going to have to play tomorrow against Fnatic.
Yes. And that is going to be an intense match as well. Can't wait to cast it. Well, you can see Seed there at the top right, man. He is looking ready. I would not want to have to face him. This is just such a great lineup of players. Last time MC wasn't able to appear always because he was traveling, but being able to use him here makes I am even that much stronger. Lucira as well, great team player last season.
Yeah, the one match that we had between LGIM and, of course, TSL, that's something that I will never forget in my entire life. Lucira at first with the 4 wins for his teams, and then it was time for Symbol to chant the symbol of hope. But here we have a closer look at the roster of LGIM today. And let's break the players down by race once again.
And here we go, starting with our Zergs, Nesty, the captain, Lucira, and True. Nesty, a multi-time champion.
Here they are, the Terrans, MVP, Happy, and Yoda. Happy just claiming victory in his Code S group.
Yes, he did. Code S player. Now our Protoss is Seed, Younghwa, MC, and First. Younghwa has been around forever. So has First. He's used to be known as Pippi a long time ago, and he is quite strong. A great distribution of players. There's not a single player in there that sounds weak. We have the two Code B players, Younghwa and First, but at the same time, they've been quite good in the Team League. They're known for their Team League performances and their online tournaments as well. This is exciting to see them all come out here like this.
You have to refresh my memory, but isn't MC at this point in time actually Code A? Didn't he lose in the Code S group against Marine King the last match that they played, and therefore took 3rd place in the group?
You are absolutely correct. I was able to watch that match.
Yeah, so I'm actually not quite sure why exactly. I wasn't a studio for that. I'm a little bit surprised that he wasn't listed as a Code A player here. Might have just been because the first round of Code S is still going on.
Exactly. Probably the stat sheet was made before that match happened, I can only assume. All right, let's find out who our first players are going to be. I cannot wait. You can see a glimpse there in the booth. Can you see clearly enough? Looks like the first player of NS Hosa has been revealed here. And this is actually going to be Brave.
Yep, Brave going to be the first player today.
Someone we have never really seen before. He's not shown himself too much, but it's a great player to put in as a starting player. Hard to prepare for.
And what you usually put up as LGIM, what the coaches have shown us several times, is that you don't start with the best players here. They always want to give more unexperienced players a chance to get the experience, get a little bit more comfortable with the situation in the booth. So who's going to be the starting player for LGIM, who has to face Brave of NS Hosa today?
I'm seeing in the lobby it shows Protoss. Find out who it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be a PvP. Exactly. On Daybreak is our first map today.
Yes. Face will be revealed in just moments. We really don't know who it is. This is actually quite tense for me. I love it when I don't know who the first player is.
Could be Younghwa here.
Yeah, I think it could be indeed.
I just had a quick look at the bench, and of course MC and Seed are still sitting there, so it could of course be Younghwa. We don't know, as already mentioned, we're just waiting for the camera to reveal who the opponent of Brave today is in this opening match.
Yep. And
it's not going to be the Hot 6 can. Hot 6 is awesome, but it can't play StarCraft just yet. They're working it though.
They're working on that. They're trying to innovate the can a little bit. This player here, I believe, is first.
Yeah.
Yep. And ranked 74th, as he has played. If I'm not mistaken, he also used the ID Nuts in the past. When he was still on IM at the time, making a lot of jokes. I am nuts. But this guy has played in Code a few times. He's never really been able to have a breakout performance. He almost was able to do a lot, but I know it sounds weird. He's like almost able to do a lot. I feel like he had a lot of potential. Got knocked out in Code a few times where it was like, well, we didn't really get to see his full potential. Let's see what he can do today.
I'm still waiting for I'm angry. So far, no new player joined the team that was able to change his ID before he did.
Yeah, no ID changes. Well, first, see how he performs today. You know, it's kind of like we've got Brave, who's a bit unknown, versus First, who's not that known. In a PvP, anything could happen here. And it's so important to take that early lead in the team league, get that first win to build that momentum going into Game 2.
Exactly, especially in the team league, it's one of the most important things. I'm actually quite happy that we have a PvP here with all the mirror matches in Protoss versus Protoss that we've seen at the WCS Korea. Was quite entertaining, so that's definitely a matchup that has been really interesting in Korea in the recent past. We have so many just fast-paced games. And here we have both of them. Daybreak, map number 1.
Does Brave look like top to you in the face at all? Like, when he looked at the camera and smiled there for a second, I was like, oh, you have a similar face to OGS Top.
He looks a lot younger, I think.
Yeah, he does. He definitely does. And Top changed his haircut significantly since then. But
well, I wouldn't know about that. That's what I have you for.
I saw him at the OSL qualifiers, man. He's got a pretty crazy haircut now. But either way, the countdown is finishing up here. The first map, as mentioned, is Daybreak. Protoss versus Protoss here at the GSTL Season 3 for 2012.
Set. Go! 3, 2, 1, go! Feed my motor! Burning time!
Alright guys, let's get the season started! GSTL Season 3, and we have our opening match with the Protoss versus Protoss. Starting to the top right is the NS Horsa player. It is
NS Horsa, Brave!
Brave.
Yeah, being brave is not the only thing that he needs today. He needs a lot of skill in order to take down not only the opening player for his opposing team, but a few more of them. The team of champions, starting with the Protoss to the bottom left. We have starting for LGIM, the Protoss player called
LGIM, Poster!
And he's literally the first player.
Yeah, there's a little bit of irony in this. He is the first player, and you could also say that Brave was quite brave to come out first to face him.
Yeah, you could say that.
I wonder if the IDs had any influence over why the players were chosen.
I love the new map print, by the way.
Yeah,
it was
pretty
really
cool.
nice. I like that. Saw it for the first time today, guys. We didn't get a sneak preview.
You know, I have to say, it's probably the best one out of all the maps, even though we haven't seen it anyways. Why? Because it's Daybreak. Daybreak always happens to have the best map intros. But I'm sure they're all going to be fairly similar.
We had a little bit of scouting going on here for our LGIM player. First, did want to make sure that there's no proxy going on. Had a quick look at the natural immediately.
Yeah.
And this is a map where we've seen a lot of different styles in the WCS. In case that you didn't watch the WCS tournament in Korea, the qualifier, there were a lot of Protoss versus Protoss matches. Basically, the Korean Protoss players dominated the whole event, but the matches were really crazy and insane. We've seen so many different strategies, ranging from Blink Stalkers to the usual robotics facility into expansion. But especially on Daybreak, we've seen a lot of Stargate openings.
Yeah, and I want to mention that, as you said, both players checked very heavily for proxies at the natural, then sent their probe right back to the main. This really shows that players have really figured out this matchup. How low value it is to scout early at your opponent's main base before the gases are taken, because if you go there too early, you don't see anything. So I like to check for proxies, go back, get those extra minerals, then scout again. And both players are going for a second gateway here in this PvP, which means they want to be a little bit safer. The potential for pressure with Stalkers is also there, but they're both going to know that they've got an extra gateway to face, so they're not going to probably try to attack too heavily.
Exactly, and what we are of course now waiting for is if we see some sentries, if we see expansions, the transition into Stargate happened in the WCS, especially from Creator most of the times when he started with the second gateway actually. So that might be something that we're going to see right now. We have the first Twilight Council being built by First here, and what is his opponent going to do?
Yeah, that is the question. He's going to have to wait a little bit longer since he did produce 2 Stalkers, which is 100 gas that he does not have to spend on tech right away.
And for him, it's of course now also a situation, if he really starts with the Stargate, which we've seen in the mirror matches on this map so often, then he is a little bit at a disadvantage here when it comes down to the build orders.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think it may in fact be Stargate, but he's got a lot of gas banked up right now.
He's at 280 nearly.
That is a ton of gas.
Yeah, the third gateway is being added by his opponent, and there's the Robo. A little bit late, but actually quite good for him that he starts with the Robo here. But still, he has a lot of gas, a pylon at the bottom left being built.
He's trying to make First think that he's putting on some pressure here, when in reality he's likely just going to expand with this robotics. But I like this, because this actually puts First a little bit on the defensive, whereas he wants to be moving out to attack with his Blink Stalkers, so it kind of messes up his timings a little bit.
He has a very early warp-in though. The warp-in tech was really chrono boosted quite heavily by Brave, and he is trying to go for the offensive right now. He's still on 2 gates, and if I'm not mistaken, at least it is. I think he didn't add another one.
You're absolutely right. He's still on just 2 gates.
A little bit of 2-gate pressure here, but on the other hand, First has 2 gates as well. His Blink is nearly done, and he should be able to hold this.
Yeah,
he's on 3 gates actually, I'm sorry.
He's going to hold it, and you know, something to think about is he did not get into the main to see that Twilight Council, which is what he wanted to see. And the probe actually, if it wanted to, could walk into the main base of his opponent. Brave now has the sentries out though to force seal the ramp, which is so critical, but the problem for him is that his Stalkers are on the middle of the map. This is exactly what First wants to trap, and Blink is almost done. He's actually going to fight 3 versus 4 here because he knows Blink is almost done, and First knows it too. He's got to get out of here. It's almost done.
Heavily damages one of the Stalkers. Blink is not done just yet. Will be in a few seconds though. 2 sentries, 3 sentries in the mix, the unit mix of NS Hosa player. Will he be able to block the ramp to deny the Blink into the main base for his opponent for First?
It looks like it. He's supply blocked right now, but he does have the Immortal out, which is going to really guarantee a hold here for quite some time. Now adds another gateway, and I think First is going to have to think about adding a Nexus or a transition here. There's the robotics being made because he knows that he's missed his timing. That's what this is. Oh wow! He blinks up. I cannot believe he allowed this.
He's able to blink, and he blinks on top of the ramp, and then uses the vision to follow with the rest of the Stalker. Snipes the Immortal immediately, and now here comes the Stalker fight. 9 Blink Stalkers against only 2, and the sentries. It really looks bad right now for Brave. First in a good spot here, but he's down. He needs to get onto the high ground again, but he has such a high Stalker count.
Unfortunately, he misses it. He misses it. Now the Stalkers can blink in. And he blinks all of them in. Targets down the last Stalker. He needs to target that Immortal, and he will.
Yeah, the Immortal is in trouble. The sentries have been pulled, and now more workers are dying. Is First able to end the game right here? Brave in trouble. The offensive blink, and the Immortal goes down.
All the probes are starting to die now as well, and it looks like First is going to take the first game here. Blinking back against the probes. The sentries do not have enough DPS, and this is going to be game ending here for Brave.
Indeed, he's dropping in supply fast. He lost all of his units. He loses the sentries. The last Stalker about to die, and now there's the GG. LGIM with a victory on the first map delivered by First.
Yeah, taking it pretty easily, and you know, if he had hit that force whip, the Stalker would not have been able to get up that ramp. If the Stalker gets up the ramp, then that's it. You blink in, you kill the Immortal, and that's how the game ends.
Yeah.
A big risk to blink up like that, but it worked out for him.
One bad force field and your opponent can blink onto the high ground with only 1 Immortal available. He was not able to withstand the Stalker power and therefore loses the game.
Well done by First. Yeah, and NS Hosa bench looking a little bit sad here, a little bit barren, you know, with only 6 players on their roster right now. It's not going to be easy to take out this team of champions, especially when one of their lesser-known players has already taken one of your players down. It's just not a good feeling mentally. The team mentality is going to be a little bit worsened by this, I would say. Exactly, and one of the problems is, of course, that you have to face so many champions. We talked about it earlier, but there are
There's Seed sitting on the bench, Nesty, there's MVP, and of course MC. So First is actually one of the players that you have to beat early on. It's not even one of the big names. Of course, this guy has a lot of potential, and being in the LGIM team, he has a lot of players that he can train with, and definitely not a pushover. But if you compare it to the rest of the lineup, then he's one of the players that you have to beat in order to have a chance in the team league.
Very true, and it's a bit unfortunate that he just wasn't able to get that force off, because otherwise, builder-wise, and with how much pressure he put on with those first few stalkers, he bought enough time to be able to hold this. Had he been able to deny the blinks, he would have just won the game, but he couldn't do it, and that's how the game ended. It's just so shows in PvP, if you make one mistake with an aggressive build against you, you can just die to that blink up.
And he at first didn't really utilize the robotics facility. If he gets the first immortal out a little bit earlier and then starts the second one, he has 2 immortals on the high ground. Suddenly this blink by first is a lot more risky, and he might actually lose most of his stalkers if he really tries to pull it off. So one thing that really worked in favor of First here, and he was able to completely capitalize on it, take the game, take the victory for his team, and LGIM therefore in a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, 1-0 lead indeed, and the question becomes now, of course, what does NS Hosa do? Who do they send out next? Do they want to send out someone like Seal early on here? They could send out Tassadar. NS Hosa was a team that was kind of Protoss heavy for a while, so PvP is probably a matchup that Tassadar feels pretty comfortable with. He's a very aggressive player, though, that you might want to use there for an all-in, so I'm not sure exactly what the plan is going to be.
And here we have a closer look at their bench.
He already got it. I couldn't even see him. I think that's actually, Salvation. It's a Terran player.
The thing is, by the way, that Freaky is not on the bench. If I'm not mistaken. I mean, I couldn't see him just now. I only saw Seal at the bottom left, but if my eyes didn't play any tricks on me, then Freaky is still in the lineup, as we've seen earlier when we had a closer look at it, but I didn't see him in the studio so far.
Well, like an Infestor, man, you need a comset scan to find that guy.
Well, I might have missed him but still.
So here is Salvation. He's chosen the map Antigua Shipyard, actually. An interesting choice. I think it's to eliminate this so that it cannot be used against NS Hosa Zergs later on. And this is pretty cool. Terran player coming out here. We haven't really seen this guy.
He looks really young.
He does.
he looks way too tiny for his jersey.
I see what you mean,
Look at the sleeves.
They're a little bit stacked up there, a little bit rumpled. But yeah, Salvation coming out here for his Academy team, man. He looks a little bit nervous.
Yes, indeed he does. But guys, before we start the next game, we're having a 5-minute break, and then we are back with the GSTL Season 3 LGIM against NS Hosa.